bishop traditionally was to represent elephant units, somehow. Similarly, in Russian, the word for bishop is squab, and that also means elephant. Okay. Ça, ça, c'est ça, che c'est ça, non ça, c'est ça, sol chi sa che nulla sa, ne sa più di chi ne sa. Ecco.
Bonjour et bienvenue à Hyper Polyglotting avec Élise. Moi c'est Élise, traductrice, éditrice et écrivain avec 20 ans de travail. Et ça c'est la transmission en direct ou en jeu des jeux, surtout GeoGuessr en dernier temps. Et parle des langues, de la linguistique et de l'acquisition des langues.
10-159. Haven't made a huge dent in it, but we're getting there. Okay, gonna do some Chinese now. Night. Night. None. Yen. Yo. 5. Ducks are drinking wine. Bangba, okay, Bangbaz is duck. Okay, I have now leveled up. Let's see what the XP situation is now. 10,340 out of 12,500. And as always, viewers can choose my next language for me just with a follow and a $5 to my Patreon.
Sotto le frasche del capanno 4 gatti grossi stanno. Sotto 4 grossi sassi, 4 grossi e grassi gatti. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Facile. Sì, ecco, la gente... è la cosa che mi dice la gente, sempre che scoprisce che quante lingue parlo. Io sempre avevo l'impressione, diciamo, di che non era così, non era tan così, ma poi dopo di aver visto qualche poliglota in YouTube, una delle cose che avevo scoperte era giustamente che la metodologia usata da quella gente poliglota che non avevo mai conosciuta prima, era più o meno la stessa metodologia che usavo io.
I buy a computer or quack, and here's another example. I like to point these out. For this word for or, quack sounds vaguely like hogun and the hook in hogun in Korean or waku in Japanese, and that means it is the exact same kind of character.
Okay, let me see.
Un chasseur, ça son chassé. Ses chassés sont son chien de chasse.
Der dicke Dach.
Okay, der dicke Dachdecker deckt dir dein Dach, drum dank dem dicken Dachdecker, dass der dicke Dachdecker dir dein Dach deckt. Hola y bienvenidos al directo de Hyper Polyglotting with Elise. Yo soy Elisa, traductora, escritora, editora y comunicadora social con más de 20 idiomas de trabajo. Y aquí vamos a estar jugando videojuegos, sobre todo GeoGuessr, y hablando de idioma, la mejor forma de aprenderlo y caleta más. Zwei Zwetschgenzweigen zwitscherten zwei tschechische Schweine. Tres tristes tigres tragaban trigo en un trigal en tres tristes trastos.
Oh, I see. This is Diche Ishai Fui, which means do you want food? But yeah, are you hungry? That kind of thing. How are the boys? Cine da boy. Posso Milao. Pote. Guanese, proteine. Protobulo. In the designated chicken eating area, obviously. Okay, still 3 times I have to defeat him. And I don't have a whole lot of health left.
Liv. Monsieur.
See.
Livla. Liwe livla.
Paks.
Mustan kissan paksut posket.
Macieje.
Yeah.
Ja. Si. Vysoký. Macieje. Proč? Víte. Počkej. A. Si. Track 6.
Aspri petra xes aspri apton ilio xexas proteri. Aspri petra xes aspri apton ilio xesas proteri.
Coginio panas.
Oh boy. Da ferra verda ferra ferda vedri.
Jacob. Hefed.
Okay.
Hefed.
Okay.
Hefed. Hefed. Hek. 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 Саша
Саша по шоссе несла сушку на счастье и сосала сушку. Саша по шоссе несла сушку на счастье и сосала сушку.
mwalimu.
This Saturday. And it's from Mu'allim.
Juma ni mwalimu mke.
Ирак чимов чипах чемп чавю ченчи чини. Чирак чимов чипа да чирак чимов чипцах чемп чавю ченчи чини. Бакакит альшит. Хикрин. Бакакит альши хикрин.
Oh, things speak cat sounds. Meow and the pictures of the fish. That's they were proud.
Sööpä. Kupu. Yrittävät. Puraista. Omena.
Are in the city center. And it's got some interesting aspects to it.
여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까? 여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까? 여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까?
Countries for living things.
Ani no namae wa
Lo que pasa es que bueno, la banera, y esto se ve en tantos lugares, no es cuestión regional, sino más bien de un problema fundamental de la pedagogía oficial de los idiomas extranjeros, y que la manera en que se enseñan en tantos lugares, en las clases, en el colegio, no tiene nada que ver con el estado actual de la investigación sobre lo que se llama adquisición de idioma.
Doesn't. You can try something else.
In fact, I would say often you really know you're getting it with languages if you can't really explain why something's right, but you just bloody well know it's right. Hi, and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I am Elise, translator, editor, and writer with 20 working languages, and this is where we talk about languages and language learning and all sorts of other stuff, and we play games.
Perfect. Okay, 3 of 4.
El hospital
還元一級の先というのは、本当に誰も知らない字ばっかりでしょうね。私は
Okay, we've leveled up and it is time to pick another language. Morfar är tröttare än vanligt. Maten är färdig. And let's see what we're doing when we get back.
Great. Hello and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I'm Elise, translator, writer, editor with 20 working languages, and this is the stream where we play games. Today it's going to be the Mark of the Ninja Remastered, and I'm going to talk about languages and language learning and what's good and what's perhaps not so great on language YouTube. So why don't we get started? Yeah, okay, just making sure that audio input was working. Occasionally I've had some problems with that. Okay. We're playing it in Italian, so I'm also going to comment a bit on the quality of the translation. Un cambiamento di rotta. Il tuo bersaglio si nasconde ben protetto nella torre esiana. Per potervi accedere, devi riuscire a distrarre le guardie. Your target is hidden, well protected, in the Hessian Tower. Ah, damn it. Just opened a window that I had no interest in actually opening. I was trying to get rid of a push notification that was in the way of everything. And instead I ended up opening the thing. So, okay. I cerchi di colore blu. Okay. Ok, conferma potenziamento. Sei sicuro di voler acquistare cancello del crepuscolo? Yes. Wait. Is that not available? Acquistato. Bomba fumogena, smoke bomb. La preda del pipistrello. Quando sei appeso al soffitto a un punto di appoggio, tieni premuto il bottone sinistro per uccidere furtivamente nemici dall'alto. Not enough points for that. Okay, I already have that. Don't have enough for that. Okay. Yes.
Corporal Kelly, would you care for a sip of this Riesling Schwarzlies? It belonged to Otto von Bismarck. I traded a cargo of body armor just to see how it would taste.
So, how is it?
A bit tight.
My men in the field were waiting for that body armor. Half of them were cut to ribbons.
Wait.
So,
Okay, so
this
the
was
guard
more
is
expensive than
South
I thought.
African, I think?
Look, we've got a problem. These ninjas,
These peasants, they are no match for us.
maybe so, but they pack a punch. This one with the flashy tattoos. He's slipping past our lines. No drama.
He's just one man. And he should only need one bullet. I want you to take care of him. Personally.
Love the
Yes,
graphics
sir.
in this.
That's the tower, but it's under heavy guard. I have an idea. If we can set that building on fire, the blaze will draw every guard in the complex. You remember the story of Sawayama Castle, right? That may have been hundreds of years ago, but this really isn't that different.
Okay, I have to remind myself how the controls work. Guida e opzioni. Comandi. Oh hell. Wasn't trying to do that. Okay, how do I... I feel like, did I play this with the controller last time? It's been so long that I've played this and I didn't play too much of it then. Okay. Trying to remember how you... Oh, my camera feed is hiding that. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. Okay, why? Okay. It's been so long since I've played this, and I didn't play all that much. I've totally forgotten how the controls work in this. I think I'm going to... Let me see. trying to remember the controls. God damn it. That's not what I was trying to do. I might start the game over, actually. Because it's been so long,
Kelly, would you care for a sip of this Riesling Spatschlis? It belonged
I was
to
actually trying to restart the game, not the level.
I traded a cargo of body armor just to see how it would taste.
Sal.
That's the tower, but it's under heavy guard. I have an idea. If we can set that building on fire, the blaze will draw every guard in the complex. You remember the story of Sawayama Castle, right? That may have been hundreds of years ago, but this really isn't that different.
How the hell do I do this? Is there any way to just restart the game? Yeah, I'm not trying to leave the game altogether. Is there a way to... okay. I might play something else. This is getting annoying. I do not remember anything about how to play this game. Let's see, what could we do instead? What have we got? Ah, let's do Cult of the Lamb again. That was cool. Let's make sure that's showing up. Oh, good, good. It's there. It's definitely better if I'm not completely failing at the game. Okay, here we go. Now, the objective of this game is to build your cult. Now I need to locate my camera feed there. Can give some inspiration. Oh no, I wasn't trying to get you to sleep, damn it. I was actually trying to get you to eat. Do I need to do a sermon today? No, I already did that. Okay, fine. That's what I thought. Okay, time to go off and get in fights with various weird-looking creatures. Mal sehen, wem wir diesmal begegnen. Oh good, we get the axe. And the divine explosion. Axe comes in handy because you can actually have a bit more of a range. Oh, get back over here. Okay, 3 hearts, that's not too bad. A lot of very cute mobs in this game. Everything's kind of cute in this game, really. It's one of the things I like about it. It's like... just, I mean, look at your character. Everything's adorable. As you're fighting demons and things, then the demons are also kind of adorable. Oh, good. Doing well. Okay, we get little bags of things. Sometimes there's good stuff in these bags. Tab. Cool. But this time there doesn't seem to have been anything. Okay, there we go. Piso di terra. Okay, another decorative thing. Is part of this game is also, I mean, it's like a goth Stardew Valley, but by the creators of Agretsuko. Okay, so let's see what we get in this question mark. Gotta go do some gardening because one thing you can actually use that grass. And for another thing, sometimes there's stuff hidden in it. Okay, stealing some devotion. Yes. Games are much more enjoyable when you're not just constantly doing the exact same thing over and over again. Because you can't seem to remember how to actually play the damn thing. That head is quite treacherous because you can beat all the mobs, and if it hasn't landed one last time, then you're kind of screwed. Okay, we got 3 options here. Where do we want to go? Oh, let's try here. Who knows what we get. And doing really well on health. That's the thing. You get a few health replenishments in this, but eventually you end up with the final boss, and hell, there I took a little bit of damage there. Oh, good. As long as I can maintain 4 health, I have a reasonable chance when we finally get to the boss. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that's actually better. Does more damage than what I had. Always have to check that in this game, because sometimes I'll have you trade off something that does actually a lot less damage. Okay, we get some heart replenishment. Okay, I've got max health. Perfect. Max health, and I'm facing the final boss. That's how I like this. Okay, steal some more devotion. It's always handy. A point of corruption. And where are we going? Okay, the evil guinea pigs. And got some coins, got some health. Lost a bit there. Ah, damn it. Lost even more. Got some hidden... Sometimes there are hearts hidden in here. So So I'm gonna look for those because now I'm down to 2. After all that. Annoyingly, you can't go back after this. So I got two health left, and I'm about to face the final boss. Let's see how I do. Yes. I did shithouse. Hell. I was doing so well then, too. Ooh, pumpkins. Okay. And shite stew. Oh, damn it. Forgot, yeah. Let's fix that one up. Some devotion here. Time to do a sermon. Okay, rituals. The banquet. Let's have a feast. Because you have to keep the faith up, and having some problems there. Haven't completely learned how to make that work. Let's see. Refinery. Let's see what we can do to improve faith. I need to load up the refinery a bit. There we go. Ilustre ideia. Alguns idosos foram expulsos de outros cultos e agora procuram um lugar para passar o fim de suas vidas. Devemos deixar que se juntem a nós? Aceitar. There we go. Give him some inspiration. Something to eat. There we go. The refinery is doing its thing. Anyone need? Okay. That is the curing station. Have we got anyone else who could use it? No. Okay. Here we go. Let's go fishing. This is one of the most Stardew Valley aspects of this. This is like the exact same fishing mechanic. And good. Swordfish. Oh, getting all sorts. And get one more out of there. New day. And it's raining. Some mushrooms. Okay. One of those. There is food. There we are. Sermon time. $40 out of $70. That's still not great. Off to see if I can manage it this time. Oh good, we get the axe, and we get... coins. Always useful to have. Any more hearts to be had in here? 9. More evil guinea pigs. Damn it. Let's see. The sun keeps shifting, and so I'm having to keep on fixing the lighting. So I set it up and I was getting direct sunlight. And now I'm not. Ernte-Totem, Düngersilo. Missionar 2 habe ich schon. Raffinerie, Heisel, Heilquartier, Reinigungsposten, Gruft 2. Okay, we're going to conjure some demons, apparently. Okay. Shite removal. There is a lot of shite in this game. Crappy weapon. Oh boy. Could be worse, I suppose. Hopefully I'll get to trade this in fairly soon. That is a real pain in the ass, that little dagger thing. Especially with lots and lots of evil guinea pigs all around. Or whatever the hell those things are. Okay, 1 heart. Anything interesting in here? Ah, half a heart. Bit half-hearted, not? Wood. Ooh, some cards. Ernte des Eifers. Good. Wahre Sicht. 10% Chance, einen kritischen Treffer auszuteilen. Nicht schlecht. Und was haben wir sonst noch? Liebenden, ein Herz geboten, ein Schwur abgelegt. Für das Gift der Angst gibt es kein Gegenmittel. Verursacht Giftschäden bei getroffenen Gegnern. Okay, nicht schlecht. Oh, bunch of devotion and art. Ooh, neat, we get to build a Stonehenge. All the best cults have henges. Bloody guinea pigs. It's going well, and I'm not a sir. Okay, werden den mal retten. Where are you joining us from? Okay, ¿a dónde vamos? Sí. Sorry, I mean, it's partially the lighting, I would imagine. The lighting is complicated today. Okay, weitermachen. Oh, mehr Karten. Die Herzen, ein zusätzliches Halbherz. Und ein zusätzliches Herz. Okay, 1,5 Herzen, das ist ja nicht schlecht. Ah, no, that's still being recharged. Ah, do Brasil. De que parte? Ah, momento. Ah. Um dos países mais difíceis no GeoGuessr. Ah, caralho. Never been there. Ah, I've seen it on the map. Oh, tenho visto no mapa. I play a lot of GeoGuessr on this stream, and you get Brazil a lot. É sempre. É super difícil. É país tão grande. Get a fair number of people from Brazil in chat here somehow. Ah, man. Okay, we gotta re-educate the dissident. Okay, some inspiration divine. And a new member. Okay, yes. Is there any language in particular you're interested in? ничего себе. Okay, well, what I would suggest... Hey, River Rune, how you doing? One of the key things is going to be, well, input. Which is to say, what you need to do is find content that you understand at least some of. However you understand it. What matters is that the understanding is possible. So sometimes that can work because there's so much of a visual aid that it's giving you sort of points of reference in order to make sense out of what you're seeing. And the key, and other than that, the more interesting it is, the better. It's what's known as comprehensible input. Get some inspiration going. Yeah, for example, podcasts, videos, music, books, magazines. Yeah, streams potentially too. It kind of depends on your level. The better you are, the farther along you are, the more chances you have. I mean, the easier it will be to find content that you understand at least a fair bit of. As a beginner, it's a bit more complicated. But the key is, it's all about understanding messages. So, like, one of the things I like to use a lot is actually, like, cooking videos and stuff like that when I'm working on a language, because they're showing you what they're doing and they're talking about what they're doing at the same time. And that makes a huge difference in sort of filling the gaps of your understanding. Okay, have we got anything interesting going on here? No, not yet. Can we build? Not yet. Yeah, streams are definitely good. Videos are good. Like, I mean, one thing I like to do that works really quite well for me is I take books that I know practically by heart. Just books that I really enjoy and that I've read a million times, and then look for a translated edition of them. I'm going to take just a little bit of a bio break real quick. I will be back in just a couple of minutes. Hi, and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I am Elise, translator, editor, and writer with 20 working languages, and this is where we talk about languages and language learning and all sorts of other stuff, and we play games. Perfect. Okay, 3 of 4.
El hospital es...
還元一級の先というのは、本当に誰も知らない字ばっかりでしょうね。私は... Okay, we've leveled up and it is time to pick another language. Morfar är tröttare än vanligt. Maten är färdig. And let's see what we're doing when we get back. Greek. We're doing Greek when we get back. Ben neredeyse her gün okula giderim. Fun fact. Turkish. Hello, Shakespeare. How you doing? Fun fact, in Spanish, the word for bishop in chess is alfil. And that actually comes from Arabic. Fil. The same word fil as this. Meaning elephant, because the bishop traditionally was to represent elephant units somehow. Similarly, in Russian, the word for bishop is squab, and that also means elephant. Okay. Ça, c'est ça. Sa che se sa non sa se sa, sol chi sa che nulla sa, ne sa più di chi ne sa. Ecco. Bonjour et bienvenue à Hyper Polyglotting avec Élise. Moi, c'est Élise, traductrice, éditrice et écrivain avec 20 ans de travail. Et ça, c'est la transmission en direct ou en jeu des jeux, surtout GeoGuessr en dernier temps. Et parle des langues, de la linguistique, de l'acquisition des langues.
10-159. Haven't made a huge dent in it, but we're getting there. Okay, gonna do some Chinese now. Night. Night. None. Bien. Yo. 5. Ducks are drinking wine. Barbaz, okay, Barbaz is duck. Okay, I have now leveled up. Let's see what the XP situation is now. 10,340 out of 12,500. And as always, viewers can choose my next language for me just with a follow and a $5 to my Patreon.
Sotto le frasche del capanno 4 gatti grossi stanno. Sotto 4 grossi sassi, 4 grossi e grassi gatti. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Facile. Sì, ecco, la gente... è la cosa che mi dice la gente, sempre che scoprisce che quante lingue parlo. Io sempre avevo l'impressione, diciamo, di che non era così, non era tan così, ma poi dopo di aver visto qualche poliglota in YouTube, una delle cose che avevo scoperte era giustamente che la metodologia usata da quella gente poliglota che non avevo mai conosciuta prima, era più o meno la stessa metodologia che usavo io.
I buy a computer or what? And here's another example. I like to point these out. For this word for or, what sounds vaguely like Hogun and the Hok in Hogun in Korean or Waku in Japanese, and that because it is the exact same kind of character.
Okay, let me see.
Un chasseur, ça chante chasser. Ses chassés sont son chien de chasse.
Der dicke Dach.
Okay, der dicke Dachdecker deckt dir dein Dach, drum dank dem dicken Dachdecker, dass der dicke Dachdecker dir dein Dach deckt. Hola y bienvenidos al directo de Hyper Polyglotting with Elise. Yo soy Elisa, traductora, escritora y editora y comunicadora social con más de 20 idiomas de trabajo. Y aquí vamos a estar jugando videojuegos, sobre todo GeoGuessr, y hablando de idioma, la mejor forma de aprenderlo y caleta más. Zwei Zwetschgenzweigen zwitscherten zwei tschechische Schwalben. 3 tristes tigres tragaban trigo en un trigal en 3 tristes trastos.
Oh, I see. This is Diche Ishai Fui, which means do you want food? But yeah, are you hungry? That kind of thing. How are the boys? Cine da boya. Posso Milao. Pote. Buenese. Proteine. Utros. Protopulo. In the designated chicken eating area, obviously.
Okay, still 3 times I have to defeat him. And I don't have a whole lot of health left. And I'm back. An app for vocabulary. Well, those can help as... See, there's what I like to call priming. Priming is anything that sort of helps bridge the gap and increase your ability to understand the sort of content that you're engaging with, whatever that is. And that does not in itself help you acquire the language unless you're also like looking at sources of input. So that is really the key. Like, if you're trying to learn Russian, you find videos in Russian that are interesting to you. There are a couple of channels I've looked at on this stream. And let me see, we might... specifically dealing with Russian. Let me see. What have I got in that department here? That's all French. Okay, Russian with Max. This is a channel... I actually looked at this video already because I was curious. And... I mean, this is definitely for not necessarily total beginners, but for people who are not necessarily all that far along. I mean, he says A2+. And what I like about this channel is that it is a channel that talks about the language in the language and offers a lot of assistance in comprehending it. He speaks very slowly and clearly. I'm gonna put this on while we continue playing. Yes, thank you for saying all that. I try to have a nice cozy chat. And it's always nice to see I'm succeeding it. Okay, so this is called...
Привет, друзья! Привет! Как дела?
This is...
Что-то не так с...
Hang on a second. And one thing I would say... Let me just get this all video quality on here. This is like glaucoma quality right now. Let's see if we can get this so he isn't quite so blurry. There we go! Now he's looking good. Okay, and a lot of people feel like subtitles are somehow cheating or like not... or something like that, like you have to watch without subtitles in order to get any benefit from it. And let me just tell you, that's not true. I mean, there's studies that have actually shown this. Subtitles can actually be a real help. So I'm going to stick on these subs, especially, you know, for non-Russian speakers in here. Russian is one of my languages, I should note. So here we go. Notice he's speaking quite slowly and clearly, which is very nice. And this is about why it's impolite in some cases to ask "How are you?" in Russian.
С этой фразой «Что-то не так? Как дела?» Сегодня я хочу поговорить, в каких случаях уместно употреблять.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too. I feel like Days and Words, who we occasionally look at in on this stream, has done a thing on that, since it is an Australian show originally, as I understand it. Here's a link to this video. This is Russian with Max. Уместно. And, I mean, see, he's putting the vocabulary that people might not have right up there on the screen, which is a very useful thing, because the more you can kind of keep yourself in the language, the more your brain is going to be able to create this space that fits it and start to really make sense out of it. And properly acquire it. Yeah, I mean, watching on repeat, that definitely is good. Especially if it's something you really like.
А в каких случаях это...
Well, channels like this are probably a good place for you. I mean, they're a good place. I mean, for one thing, even if you aren't understanding a whole lot at first of all, a lot of language acquisition is unconscious, inconsciente. You know it's happening, but your brain is doing it. So you can, yeah, like, just listening to Russian being spoken is going to help give you sort of the rhythm of it. You're going to start getting an idea for how it sounds, for, like, all those sorts of things. But here, I mean, he's also giving you some help with vocabulary words that you may not have.
Неуместно. В каких случаях не нужно говорить «как дела». И здесь есть интересный...
Let me make sure these subs are visible on here. Oh, let me see. Let me adjust that because my head is in the way of the subs. Here we go. That's a little bit better.
Момент. Давайте разбираться. Я сейчас живу в Аргентине, в испаноговорящей среде. И для англоговорящих и испаноговорящих людей абсолютно нормально говорить «Привет, как дела?» «Привет, как поживаешь?»
Okay, this is weird. Why is this video not moving?
Говорить «Привет, как дела?» «Привет, как поживаешь?» Например, «Hola, ¿qué tal?» «Hola, ¿cómo estás?» «Todo bien?» «Cómo te va?» Абсолютно нормально. В английском...
Нормально. Normal. Normal.
Тоже. Hi, how you doing? What's up? Не знаю, how's it going? И так далее. Это абсолютно нормально, это вежливо, и это часть приветствия.
Вежливо. Это значит bem educado.
Но для меня, для русского человека, иногда здесь в Аргентине немножко тяжело отвечать на этот вопрос. Да? ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Я чувствую себя иногда не очень комфортно, когда люди часто, много раз в день, незнакомые люди, спрашивают у меня, как дела. И...
See, I mean, what's useful here, he's talking very slowly. He's offering lots of sort of concrete examples to help people follow along who aren't necessarily getting the Russian. And he's talking about an important cultural distinction. I'm just gonna spoil it a little bit and say the cultural distinction is that when you ask Russians how they're doing, that is a question that people expect an answer. Like, not just, hey, it's not just a thing, you know, in a lot of places, how you doing, it's just everyone says, yeah, fine, and it doesn't mean anything, it's just a thing you ask. In Russia, on the other hand, if you ask somebody how they're doing, they feel that they need to give a real example. Sí, por ejemplo. Sí. They, like, if you ask how you're doing, it's, people actually are going to feel compelled to tell you that because it's not just a formulaic kind of question.
И вначале я терялся. Я не знал...
Notice, again, here we have another example of where he's giving you an expression that you might not yet have. Вначале я терялся. Теряться, perderse. Теряться, терять, perder. to lose. So it's like getting lost. Ao principio me perdi.
Ну, как лучше ответить? Сейчас я уже привык, но все равно иногда мне это кажется странным. И мне хочется рассказать о своих делах. О том, что кофе утром был невкусный. О том, что на улице слишком жарко. Или что я устал на работе. И так далее. И я понимаю, что это не тот ответ, который хочет услышать мой собеседник. Он не хочет узнать про...
Собеседник, беседовать. Falar, conversar. Собеседник, interlocutor. So, the person you're talking to. I mean, I like the way he does this. This is good for this. This, because they're talking about the language, but they're talking about it in the language, and these are good subtitles. It looks like he's actually done these himself. I mean, these machine-generated subs are often just rubbish. Like, the text-to-speech software doesn't necessarily understand the pronunciation and all that. I bet he's got Russian subs here too. Ну, посмотрим. Какие у него субтитры? Oh, neat. Okay. Arabic, French, German, Russian, Spanish, Turkish. And then auto-generated Russian. Neat. Я понимаю, что это не тот ответ, который хочет. Yeah, I mean, he did these himself, which is nice. But we'll stick it back on English for now, for everybody. But that's another very useful thing. I mean, the more advanced you get... Oh, that's an excellent question for anyone who's just listening. Ande Campus is asking, do you think I have to search for every word I don't know? Or can I just try to understand without translating? And the answer is the latter. I mean, if you're looking up every word, it breaks up the flow. I mean, these are things that have actually been studied, and there's no benefit really in that. See, there's two kinds of reading for these purposes. You'll hear these terms a lot if you look at like language acquisition studies and things like that. There's what's called intensive reading, and there's extensive reading. Now, when you say intensive reading, that's where you're trying to understand every single word. You're trying to go through every single word and do like a really close parsing of every single meaning and everything like that. And that, at a certain level, is quite good. But particularly at the beginning, what you want to go for is extensive reading. And I mean, this goes for like listening as well. Well, I mean, I'm using the terminology that's used related to reading, but it's the same sort of thing. Because the goal is to sort of just get the general gist of what's going on. Don't worry about looking up every word, because that takes you out of the flow. And you don't want to interrupt the flow. That's part of why it's so good that he adds these words that he thinks that a lot of people listening aren't necessarily going to understand. Because you can stay within the flow and everything and understand more. So, yeah, definitely don't go looking up every single word. Don't worry about that. Just try to get the general sense of what's going on. And if it's interesting enough content, and the more interesting the content is, the better. Because then you actually just want to watch it for itself. And that really helps with this process. You, watch it over and over again. Not necessarily all in a row. You don't want to get... If you get bored, if you find that your attention is lagging, or wavering, then find something else to do for a while, but come back to it. And gradually you will understand more and more. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and anything that is turning the language into boredom is something to avoid. You want to have things that are really engaging to you. That is why it's really key to find stuff that you personally find interesting. Whatever that is. Because the more interested you are in the content itself, the more exciting you find it, the more you actually want to know what's going to happen next, the better it is for language acquisition.
Про мой день, про то, что я думаю про погоду, и про работу и так далее. И здесь есть некая разница культур. Один мой знакомый русский, который живет в Аргентине, написал интересное сообщение в чате. Давайте я вам его прочитаю. Он написал, цитата, «И все-таки
хотелось бы понять, что отвечать на «Hola, ¿qué tal?» или «Buena, ¿cómo estás?» До сих пор начинаю каждый раз развернуто отвечать что-то вроде «Ya sabes, hoy todo está bien, pero ayer intenté comprar un powerbank y me vendieron el modelo equivocado. Y человек уже удалился». So, like, this Russian guy, his friend of his is saying he just he still doesn't quite understand how you're supposed to answer it because he keeps on giving these detailed answers, which is the Russian way of doing things. Yeah. Well, one thing about harder vocabulary is we have this idea that certain vocabulary is advanced and other stuff isn't. And really, it depends on the subjects that you like to talk about. That is a very key thing. Because everybody has kind of different topics that they want to be able to talk about, that they're interested in having conversations about and stuff like that. And if you let that be your guide, that will make things easier. For one thing, you're more likely to be looking at stuff that's more interesting to you. And for another thing, then you have the kind of vocabulary that helps you talk about the stuff you actually care to talk about. Because the thing about languages is the language is the language. If you are looking at stuff about like how to fix a motherboard or whatever, then you're still getting the language. You're getting a specific subset of vocabulary talking about a specific subject, but the language is still the language. So like things like the grammar, the structures of the language, that's still all there, no matter what it is you're talking about. Алло, ГГМ.
Все-таки хотелось бы понять, что отвечать на «Hola, ¿qué tal?» или «Buenas, ¿cómo estás?» До сих пор начинаю каждый раз развернуто отвечать что-то вроде «Ya sabes, hoy todo está bien, pero ayer...»
Ya sabes. You can tell he's been spending time in Argentina, just the way he pronounces that. Because, in Argentina, they say «ya» instead of «ya». Ya sabes instead of «ya sabes».
Intenté comprar un powerbank y me vendieron el modelo equivocado. А человек уже удалился. Конец цитаты. И подобное недоумение испытывают многие русскоговорящие люди. И я хочу попытаться объяснить.
Русскоговорящие люди — это люди, женщины, которые говорят по-русски, но руссу.
объяснить, почему возникает такая проблема, почему русскоговорящим часто сложно ответить просто «все хорошо, все нормально, все хорошо, а у тебя?» Почему это так? Давайте посмотрим.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're used to this being a legit question where you're actually supposed to give a real answer. Saying everything's fine, it seems like bullshit, because often it's going to be. There's, you got stuff going on, and you feel like this is not a proper answer. But of course, in different places, people have different expectations of this question. And the issue is, the Russian expectation is that you're going to give a real answer. Whereas the expectation in, English-speaking countries, for the most part, in Spanish-speaking countries, is that you're going to give an answer that... Something's stabbing me. An answer that is just sort of perfunctory, pro forma.
Если вы все еще не совсем понимаете, что...
Okay, yeah, for example. And, I mean, one thing I can tell you about YouTube, you can find all sorts of, content about all these things. I bet you could find, I don't know, an actual full-on, lecture on anatomy and physiology, or all of these things, actually, programming and stuff, too, in Russian on YouTube. And then they're talking about stuff that you're studying and that you understand. And they're doing it in the language, and that can really be really helpful, because you already know what they're doing. You already know what they're talking about. You understand the stuff. Das ist, also der spricht Spanisch, der lebt in Argentinien. Und hier, also bringt er der Zuschauerschaft die russische Sprache bei. Oh, when I started... actually, a very long time ago, I first really got interested in teaching myself languages when I was about 5. I mean, I grew up with Spanish, German, and English, but the first time I really said consciously, I want to learn this language, I was 5, and it was because I had seen the Russian alphabet. And I thought the Russian alphabet looked really cool, and so I was like, okay, I gotta learn everything about this. Which wasn't easy because it was the 1980s and there really weren't a lot of great books on the subject or great content. YouTube didn't exist and all that sort of thing. No internet as we know it, certainly. But that was the one I started with, and I just kind of, the bug bit me, and I just kind of kept going from there.
Что я имею в виду, то я говорю про разницу восприятия приветствий. Да? Разница восприятия приветствий в разных культурах. В англоговорящей и испаноговорящей средах и в русскоговорящей среде. С другими культурами я так не знаком, поэтому...
Среда, амбиенчи. Entorno.
Друзья, не знаю, как обстоят дела. Пожалуйста, напишите в вашей стране, в вашей...
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are people who've started even later. I mean, I, started... There are languages that I started when I was actually 4 or 5 years older than you are now. And there are people who've actually... really didn't get into it until, their 20s or their 30s or something like that, and have done really well, because it's all a matter of getting, of the right approach and finding the right sort of materials to work with, the right resources. And if you are doing it, if the approach is right, and you've got good input, good content and stuff like that, then yeah, priroda, but this is like entorno or ambiente social, o entorno social. Pode ser sreda, окружающая sreda, o ambiente no sentido ambiental, da proteção ambiental e tudo isso. It can be both, depending on the context. When he's using it here, it's like a social environment, the people around you and stuff like that, your cultural environment and stuff like that. So more of entorno. But it can also be used in the sense of nature and the environment and the climate and that stuff. Then you say окружающая среда. Окружающий means like surrounding. It comes from круг, círculo, circle. And окружать is to form a circle around something, right? So окружающая среда. Среда is medium, médio, entorno, ambiente. It can mean it has a wide variety of meanings. And you just sort of, and I mean, that's one of the things that your brain is just doing as you're listening to this sort of content and paying attention to it, is it's starting to make those connections.
Культуре какие приветствия? Нормально это спрашивать, как дела у незнакомого человека, или это не совсем корректно? Итак, давайте посмотрим на два сценария. Первый сценарий, когда вы встречаете абсолютно незнакомого человека. И второй сценарий, когда вы встречаете немного знакомого человека.
Знакомый, conhecido. Незнакомый, desconhecido.
Человека, которого вы немного знаете. Потому что с друзьями можно говорить как угодно, спрашивать что угодно. Это другой разговор. Итак, представьте себе, что вы
and one thing about Russian that is handy is that the roots are consistent and get used a lot. So you heard him say русскоговорящий, Russian speaking. Говорящий is from говорить, to speak. And then you have разговор. Разговор, that is also говор, like говорить, говорящий. And it means разговор is a conversation. Then you have like договор with the prefix da, and then говор, and then it becomes a contract or an agreement. Заговор, again, говор, like which has to do with speaking and conversation and stuff. Заговор is like a conspiracy, for example, because it's people talking in order to make something happen, basically. And so if you start to notice these roots, говор or место, and stuff like that, the more you start to notice that, the more of those connections you can make. Because, I mean, there are a lot of things that are kind of complicated about Russian. Stress patterns are kind of unpredictable. I mean, I speak Russian very well. I can read, like, legal documents, and but I still sometimes get the stress wrong just because I don't get to speak it that much, and it is not as simple as like Portuguese or Spanish, where the default stress is generally fairly simple and obvious.
Русского человека, русскоговорящего человека, например, в России.
Человек,
Например, вы встречаете человека в банке или на почте.
Место. Место is lugar, place. Now, earlier he used the word уместно. That uses the root word for the root место. Уместно, in place. No seu lugar, you could say. And that's a word, actually, if you look at other Slavic languages, that's one you see all over the place. In other languages, it often means city or town. And so there's lots of this sort of stuff, and you just start to notice these patterns the more words you see.
Сотрудника почты или просто незнакомого человека в лифте. Вы едете в лифте, заходит человек, незнакомый вам человек. Как вам его поприветствовать? На самом деле все элементарно. Вы просто говорите «Здравствуйте». Здравствуйте.
Поприветствовать, салудар. Можно, значит, что это уместно, что это permissible. Permitted.
Здравствуйте. Да? Так, здравствуйте. Все, этого достаточно. Можно сказать «добрый день», или «доброе утро», или «добрый вечер». Это тоже нормально. И вы используете вежливые формы, вы используете обращение на «вы».
О, сеньор.
То есть вежливую форму приветствия. Здравствуйте. Что не нужно говорить незнакомому человеку в лифте или в банке или на почте? Не нужно говорить «привет». «Привет» — это неформальный стиль. «Привет» мы говорим только знакомым людям.
No, привет and поприветствовать. They have a root there, привет, which is like, literally it means greeting.
Не нужно говорить «как дела».
Yeah, запрещено. Yeah. Yeah, it's like literally, but it's written with sh, not sha. Запрещено. And that means like, that literally means prohibited. But you can also just say не можно, потому что не запрещено так обращаться на другие, на незнакомых. Но это как-то неуместно. So you would say, не. Okay, I'm gonna write it in chat for you.
Или даже «как ваши дела», да, вежливая форма. «Как ваши дела».
Yeah.
Не нужно это говорить.
Now, he says this, they translate this in the subs as no need to say that, which is a literal translation. He said не нужно. And literally that means not necessary. But in this case, it's more like you shouldn't say it. Like, because it will make people, it'll be awkward in that situation if you're talking with a stranger and you ask that.
И, конечно, не нужно обращаться.
Okay, the difference between it is one is pronounced sh. I'm gonna get close to the microphone so you can hear it better. That's the first one, without the little tail on it. And then the other one is shh. Now, so there's an extra sound on the end of it is the difference. Запрещено. Sh. Yeah. So, like that. Now, it sounds, when people speak fast, it's harder to tell the difference. But your tongue moves from one position to another when you're saying it. The more you listen to it, the more you'll recognize the difference.
На «ты». Привет, как дела? Это все обращение неформальное, да? Поэтому не нужно говорить «привет», не нужно говорить «как дела». Нет. Если вы встретили человека в лифте, и незнакомого человека в лифте, и вы у него спрашиваете «Привет, как дела?»
gonna turn
то
my fan
реакция
off. I'm
может
getting
быть
cold.
такой. Или реакция может быть такой.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, I mean, this is a question that is expecting a real answer in Russian. So you ask some random person, "How's your day going?" They're gonna like, why the hell am I gonna tell some random person everything that's going on in my life? What could they possibly want to know that?
Да, потому что для незнакомого человека вопрос «как дела?» — это признак невежливости. Да. Спрашивать «как дела» у незнакомого человека — это невежливо. Ты нарушаешь личные границы человека. Ты как будто лезешь в его личную жизнь.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, so... Yeah, okay, граница, that is boundary. It's also like boundaries between countries, so it's also borders. It actually comes from German. Grenze. Граница, Grenze. And they just sort of changed the vowels of it.
Спрашиваешь, как дела? Расскажи мне, что с тобой произошло,
Exactly.
о чем ты думаешь,
exactly what they
какое
understand.
твое настроение. Да, люди это не любят, когда незнакомцы их спрашивают об этом. В России скорее работает правило слова серебро, молчание золото. Слово
Yeah, because it's not. Yeah, exactly, because it's not actually. It's not a question, and so people just say that, and it's sort of, and that's sort of the end of it. Like, because it could go on forever, and nobody really expects that to be a legit answer for the most part. So, you're from Brazil too, aren't you?
серебро, молчание золото. То есть лучше сказать меньше, чем сказать больше, чем сказать что-то лишнее. Когда незнакомец выходит из лифта, вы просто говорите ему «до свидания». «До свидания» или можно сказать «всего доброго» или можно сказать «хорошего дня». Вот, это будет вежливо. Сказать «хорошего дня».
Oh, right. I have to keep up with like multiple different usernames for the same people between Twitch and YouTube, and that gets me confused. But yeah, exactly. I mean, I always find in that like complicated as well, because my inclination is to provide a legit answer as well. Also eigentlich eher berlinerisch. Yeah. Oi, tudo bem? And yeah, exactly. And because nobody thinks that that this is a real question.
До свидания, хорошего дня. Это нормально. Это можно сказать абсолютно нормально. Но не стоит говорить что-то типа «до встречи». Да? В лифте или сотруднику банка, если вы скажете «до встречи», ну, это означает, что вы планируете вернуться к этому человеку.
Yeah, до встреча, literally until the meeting, which would sound weird, like because it is meant literally. Yeah, more or less, it's similar anyway, because it literally means you're expecting to see them again, which actually could sound low-key ominous when you think about it. That sounds like you're like stalking them or something. Like why the hell is this random person is so certain that we're going to see each other again? Yeah, I mean, that would actually seem like possibly low-key a threat.
Зачем? Зачем второй раз приходить в банк к этому же человеку? Это не нужно. Поэтому это будет неуместно. Это все неформально. Также не стоит говорить «пока». Да, «пока» нет.
Yeah, I mean, he translates this literally here as yet. Because that is, I mean, like, пока is a preposition, actually, that is used in that sense. But as a greeting, informally, it's like, until we see each other again. But, I mean, again, it literally means you expect to see the person again. Which, with a person you have absolutely who has literally no reason to expect to see you again, is a little bit weird. It's like what are you gonna be, like, waiting for me at my door when I get home? What the hell is this? What are you, a cop?
Это тоже неформальный стиль. Поэтому лучше всего сказать «до свидания», «всего доброго», «всего хорошего» и так далее. Этого будет вполне достаточно. Второй сценарий – это когда вы встречаете человека, которого вы знаете, немного знаете. Человека, с которым вы знакомы. Например, ваш сосед или коллега из другого департамента, или, например, консьерж в доме, да? Человек, с которым вы немного знакомы. И в этом случае появляются опции.
Yeah, he's definitely using this. He's being very literal in his translations here, because what he's saying is, there's two ways of saying you in Russian. There's ты, which is like tu, você, and it's more informal. And then there's вы, which is usted, o señor, z. It is the more polite and formal way. I mean, вы can also just be like plural in the, an informal plural. There isn't a distinction like in German. In German you have ihr and sie, and ihr is informal plural, sie is formal plural. Russian doesn't have that. There's just вы, and that's just either a group of people, two or more, or it is a formal way of speaking to one person.
Вы можете говорить на «ты» или вы можете говорить на «вы». Это зависит от ситуации, от контекста. Но в этом случае вы можете спросить у человека, как дела. Например, «Здравствуйте, как ваши дела?» Или «Привет, как дела? Как твои дела?» Это будет уместно, это будет нормально. Однако важно держать в голове, что вопрос «как дела?» или «как ваши дела?» он в русскоговорящей среде не имеет социально ожидаемого ответа. То есть, если вы спрашиваете «как дела?», то человек может ответить все, что угодно. Это не всегда формальность. Иногда мы спрашиваем...
Иногда, a veces.
«Привет, как дела?» Как формальность, да, просто «Привет, как дела?» Но у знакомого человека. Но... я думаю, что чаще мы спрашиваем «как дела?», когда нам действительно хочется услышать, как дела у человека. И вот это важно понимать, потому что мы не ждем, что человек просто скажет «все хорошо, а как у тебя?» Нормально, как у тебя?
Yeah.
Такое может быть, конечно, но обычно, скорее всего, вам человек ответит что-то другое. И это абсолютно нормально, если человек начнет вам рассказывать что-то о своей жизни. Да? Например, «Привет, ну как дела?» Да слушай, хреново. Честно говоря,
Хреново. It's shite.
хреново. Мой начальник идиот. Он идиот. И коллеги тоже идиоты. Не, ты нормальный, конечно, парень, но вообще они идиоты. Я не знаю, вообще, меня бесит моя работа, а знаешь, еще моя жена и так далее.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it is a question expecting an answer as opposed to just a thing people say.
То есть, может быть просто нормально, как у тебя, а может быть рассказ о жизни. Поэтому, друзья, если у вас нет времени или нет вот искреннего желания услышать что-то о человеке, то лучше не спрашивать, как дела, или как ты поживаешь, что нового, как жизнь. Лучше не задавать этот вопрос, если вы не готовы к диалогу. Конечно, ситуации могут быть разные. Люди могут быть разные. Человек в городе, человек в мегаполисе.
Cidade.
Человек в деревне. Ситуации будут разные. Но нормы этикета скорее нам говорят, что у незнакомых людей точно не надо спрашивать, как дела. У знакомых людей, конечно, можно, но это не должно быть частью приветствия.
Yeah. Okay. And so this, I mean, I like the way that he does this, and for like people looking to teach, I mean, I would say he does a really good job of this. Because again, you have the subtitles. He has like these explications of words that people might not expect to know, like хреново, which is not a bad word to have in your hands. He speaks very slowly and clearly, but it is still a natural speed. He isn't like speaking he's speaking slower than somebody normally would in conversation with another Russian speaker. But it's still a normal speech pace. I mean, as far as explicit language learning content for Russian, I think the style of this is really well done.
Как итог, друзья, такие вопросы, как дела, как твоя жизнь, как ваша жизнь, как поживаешь и так далее, они не являются частью приветствия. Приветствие — это привет, здравствуйте, добрый день, добрый вечер и так далее. Это приветствие. Но вопрос «как дела» — это уже следующий этап. Следующий шаг, следующая фаза вашего общения. Поэтому это нужно понимать. Если вы пишете письмо, электронное письмо кому-то, тоже не пишите «Привет, как дела?» или «Привет, как поживаете?» или «Привет, надеюсь, что у тебя все хорошо». Не нужно. Просто добрый день.
Yeah, I mean, see, he made a good distinction there a minute ago, because he was saying, because there are things that are considered part of the greetings that, you know, it's just something people say to acknowledge each other, essentially, without necessarily wanting to enter into a discussion. And then there are things that are not part of the greetings that are already part of having a conversation. And in Russian, the threshold for conversation ends right before "how are you doing? How are things going? What's new?" or something like that. Whereas in other cultural, contexts, and like English-speaking contexts, and like Spanish-speaking countries, Portuguese-speaking countries, "how you doing?" Or the equivalent thereof is still in the greeting phase, and therefore is not does not automatically initiate a conversation. It offers the option to initiate a conversation, because you can take "how you doing," depending on the context, and you can either say, "yeah, fine, how about you?" Oh, and it's essentially a conversation has not been initiated, really. Or you can take it as a real question if maybe somebody is in fact asking you a real question. It seems like they really want to know. And then you see, "yeah, my boss is an asshole. The economy seems kind of fucked, and I'm really getting a bit freaked out about what's happening with the climate," and something like that. Or you can say, "yeah, I'm fine, how about you?" Or whatever. I don't know why I lapsed into Brooklyn there. Consider it a bonus. But so the different cultures and different languages sort of draw that line in different places.
День, здравствуйте, и пишите, что вы хотите написать. Вот примерно так это все выглядит в русскоязычной среде, ну, с моей точки зрения, с точки зрения какого-то этикета. Но, друзья, напишите, как в вашей стране выглядят приветствия. Вы спрашиваете, как дела у незнакомцев или нет? Напишите.
Незнакомцев. Значит, незнакомый человек, незнакомец. Это человек незнакомый.
Про вашу культуру, про вашу страну. Мне будет очень интересно почитать ваши комментарии. Пожалуйста, поставьте лайк этому видео, подписывайтесь на канал и, друзья, если вы хотите больше практики русского, присоединяйтесь к нашей
learning Russian, I think is not a
Там
bad place
есть
to go
транскрипции для
as sort of starter input. Let's see, what else have we got? What else can we look at? Okay, another channel that I quite like for just good sound ideas on language acquisition is Natural Languages. And he's got, this is a long one, we're not going to get to see the whole thing, but this is an explanation of like 2,000 hours of acquiring Spanish and what they do. He also uses really sort of sound input-based ideas.
So
and
how
he
to
has
transition? Well, I made it up. I started talking to myself.
That's a good way, actually.
And
that's legit.
Every day,
I do that.
I take a walk. Every day, I drive in my car, and I talk to myself about what I see.
Yeah.
The trees, the road, the cars, the people.
His content is in Spanish and English, and very sound ideas regularly.
Yep.
Definitely something we're subscribing to.
What happened is there was no embarrassment. There wasn't anybody staring at me saying, "Are you back?" The experience has been fun because the words, when I find them, come out of the dark corners.
Yeah, this is true.
Thinking, where did I get that word?
Yeah, I mean, this is really true. When you actually really are acquiring a language, you really don't have a conscious understanding of every single thing that you're picking up. So, like, literally, you can have this experience, where you just surprise yourself, like, apparently I have words I had no idea about. I mean, I remember one of the first times I was in Finland. Finnish is a language I've been working on for a long time. I wouldn't say I speak it, but I can kind of, I can read and understand a fair bit, and I can have a pretty good conversation. I need to warm up a little bit. But, and a part of that is I just am never in an environment where I actually am using Finnish. But I remember I was trying to find a little shop to get a snack or something like that, and I came out with a grammatical construction that I've definitely seen, but I did not realize I could just sort of bring up, and it's like, wow, I use the Tavissa form. I hadn't planned it, it just came out that way, and it's like, holy shit. That, things are taking shape.
Where did that
It's
come
really
from?
cool.
Hi, Joe. Hello, Alvaro.
The guy on the right, that's Alvaro Eras, and he is the host of the channel.
Well, welcome to the podcast. First of all, it's a pleasure to have you on. Oh, it's my pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you. Yeah, I think you're gonna be the perfect guest, or that timely guest, because, as you know, I've been talking a lot recently about how to make the transition between input and output, because I think
that is an important thing, because there is one thing that is important to understand, so you don't get impatient with yourself, is that there is what's called a silent period. Any language you're acquiring, there's going to be a while when your ability to engage with it is more passive and you can't really necessarily say a whole lot. And the transition between that sort of passive phase, the silent period, and actually being able to have a conversation is one of the more complicated things. And so this guy's going to be talking. I'm not familiar with him. Alvaro I'm familiar with. I actually did an interview with him on his channel, like last year sometime. How to sort of go from that phase when you've got the stuff in your head and you're understanding what you're hearing or reading or whatever, but you're not necessarily able to articulate, to getting to the point of being able to articulate. So this should be really good.
it's a bit of a missing piece when it comes to understanding the language acquisition process. Because again, I believe in comprehensive input the most. I think it's absolutely key. You can't learn a language without it. But I feel like the language community in general, should talk more about how to make that transition, because I've noticed that myself.
Yeah, I mean, that transition, see, that's the thing. It's like, comprehensible input is not in itself a method. It is an ingredient that is essential for any method to work. But if you want to but you have to know what to do with it. And one of the real challenges method-wise is this transition from where you're like passively able to understand and actively able to speak. And one of the things he said that, like, talking to yourself, just saying random stuff to yourself in your target language is a good one. I've done that. I still do that. I mean, and one of the advantages, as he said, is there's nobody there to be awkward with. You're just saying stuff. I mean, it's really good because you get used to the stuff coming out of your mouth.
But I see it in a lot of people, like, that might be the most frustrating part. You know, when
definitely.
You've been listening to the language for quite a while, you understand a lot, and you want to start communicating, but you're not there yet. Or it takes a lot of effort and things like that. And since you're in that specific moment when it comes to Spanish, I think it's going to be a great experience for everyone.
Sounds like a good plan.
I like his glasses.
I am here indirectly because of the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, we had some time on our hands because the things that we did.
Which people wouldn't say during as if it was over. It really is not over. It could be over. There are ways we could actually really make it over, but we're not there yet because the things things that aren't being done.
Shut in.
But
And
yeah.
so I started reading a lot. And I was reading literature in English, but I had read a lot. And what that experience taught me is how to reallocate my time from things that were
Don't know if you hear it, but there's a little dog running above my head.
A habit of reading a lot that served extremely well. The other thing I did was put an emphasis on audio input of that literature so that I could repurpose my car. Because if I'm driving someplace,
yes,
listening to the radio, that's probably going to be wasted time. Maybe lightly entertaining, but not fulfilling. So I read Moby Dick and, Anna Karenina and War and Peace, a lot of that in the car. Now that experience of how to reallocate my time was useful because in February of 23...
I mean, this sort of just reminds me of sort of in the early phases of the Industrial Revolution. One of the things that, like, these skilled tradies who were going into the factory system all of a sudden, one of the things they complained about is it was getting in the way of their cultural activities. Because the way it had been was that they would often, like, pay a kid to read stuff to them while they were working. And so they had, like, all sorts of cultural stuff going on. As they're working, they're listening to, like, they didn't have audiobooks in those days. They would have somebody read to them as they were, like, doing their blacksmithing or whatever. Have someone read the latest novels and stuff like that so that they could keep up with this stuff. And then, you had the factory system shows up and suddenly they can't do that. And it was something that they really missed.
YouTube. And I put a YouTube search in for comprehensible input. I had heard that term of art, but I wasn't really clear on what it was all about. And I found Steve Kaufman, Stephen Krashen. And
Stephen Krashen in particular is an important name in this field. I mean, he is one of the leading researchers on the subject. And he has very sound ideas on this. I mean, if you put his name in, I'll write it down so you have the spelling. If you put his name into YouTube, you'll find lots of talks he's given, and they're all very worthwhile, talking about, like, sound approaches and the research that's been done. Definitely a good person to listen to on this stuff.
So starting in February of 23, I did 3 to 4 hours a day, every day, of input. And the language grew. But I was following the recommendations. I wasn't speaking. I live in California. There are a lot of Spanish speakers here. But my day-to-day didn't put me in a situation where I needed to speak in order to conduct business or take care of my own needs. I could do that silent period that has been recommended by
that's
Brown
the term,
and others to get the sounds in my head. So now I've got my 2,000 hours, and the question is exactly what you just said. How do you transition into talking? Right. Not so easy.
Very true.
So the guidance I have on that is from Pablo, and he said you need hundreds of hours of practice in speaking. And admittedly, all of these comprehensible input knowledge sources that I was working from were really focusing on input.
Yeah.
And it was almost like output didn't exist. So how to transition? Well, I made it up. I started talking to myself.
And as I said, that is a great idea. I mean, in fact, another thing that you can do in this vein is if you have stuff you're reading in your target language, read it out loud. I mean, especially if you have like audiobooks or something like that, so you can really hear the right pronunciation and get used to it. That's even better. Then you can really kind of work on that, the pronunciation aspect of it. But just sitting there and reading stuff out loud to yourself, just to start wrapping your mouth around the language, is a very useful thing, because then it's all getting used to actually making the sounds that you're now used to hearing.
And every day I take a walk. Every day I drive in my car. And I talk to myself about what I see. The trees, the road, the cars, the people. And the first time I did it, it was horrible. Because I couldn't find any word.
Yeah.
But what happened is there was no embarrassment.
Exactly.
There wasn't anybody staring at me saying, "Are you back?" And so, in the absence of embarrassment...
Yeah, I mean, this is a key point, because one of the really difficult things about getting into the point where you're actually speaking is that confidence, because we don't want to make dickheads of ourselves. You know, you're worried about what people are going to think. You're going to say something that is, like, accidentally unforgivable or something like that. And you have to just get past that sort of fear of messing it up and looking like a dickhead and realize you're going to occasionally. And people will know you're learning the language. You're not there yet, and they will expect you to occasionally say something that makes you look a little bit silly, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. But it's definitely quite helpful to do that in a situation where there's literally nobody listening to you, and so there's no embarrassment at all, just so you can start having your mouth
I just kept going.
Do its thing.
And I still do it every day, and it's getting easier. Now, what I'm not doing is recording myself, so I can't tell you if I'm becoming more eloquent. Maybe I still sound like a 4-year-old. I don't know. Right. But the experience has been fun, because the words, when I find them, come out of the dark corners of my mind, and I'm thinking,
it's an amazing feeling.
Where did that come from? And it was just hidden someplace in a little cubbyhole.
Yeah,
out it would come.
Gaining access to this stuff, and you don't even necessarily know what you got there.
Continue doing this because I have no time limit. I'm not living in a Spanish-speaking country. I don't have a job that requires this, and so I can take that same relaxed approach. Although you might quibble saying, well, wait a minute, if you're doing 4 hours a day, how's that relaxed? But
it depends on what you're doing.
That same no pressure approach that I did with the input, and not stress myself out. Think, how many times have you heard somebody tell you that if you're stressing over a language, it isn't going to work as well. It's not going to serve you as well. Don't stress. Take it easy.
Yeah, I mean, and that is true. Like, stress is toxic to language acquisition. You want to make yourself comfortable while you're doing it. You don't want to put too much pressure. You don't want to be, like, forcing yourself. If you're forcing yourself too much, then possibly you may want to try some other stuff and other materials. Or you sometimes want to just take a hard break every once in a while, because the stress actually gets in the way of achieving the objective. And so and of course, the minute the fear of embarrassment gets in, that is a source of stress, isn't it? So you have to find ways to get around that. And talking to yourself, or reading aloud, or like acting out scenes of stuff that you're watching in your target language, Just, you know, just act out the entire dialogue yourself. Don't just for yourself. Don't worry about whether it sounds just right, whether you're messing it up or not. Just act, you know, and just get used to talking.
Easy. Right. Yeah, you did 4 hours a day because you wanted to, not because you wanted to speed up the process in order to get a job. For example. Right?
Exactly.
Oh, that's exactly right. I had a professor years ago who was a funny guy, and he's a very Socratic guy, and he said,
I knew it.
You know, people basically.
The minute I heard him say term of art, I was pretty sure he's a lawyer. And now he's describing a professor as Socratic. I think that
they do what they want.
Think he is a lawyer by training, because those are two
and at
very.
the time, I wasn't very smart, I guess, and I listened to him. I thought, wow, what a waste of time telling me that. And about 20 years later, I went, oh my God. In other words, you can't boss people around because they're going to basically do what they want to do, right? So I made a video about that. But yeah, I wanted to get the input, and that's how I did it. Now I want the output, but I'm not stressing over it. Just doing it a little bit every day. Walk. Got it.
And the more interesting the stuff you're working with, the more relevant it is to your life, and the more you actually enjoy it, the less actual effort it takes.
Now, what about the next plan? I want to do italki. But I think I've got some work.
And let me say, another thing for the sort of output side of things, this is a plug for an event that's coming up. It's the Polyglot Conference, the online Polyglot Conference. And it's great. I mean, it's just a really fun, very cool, chill environment. This is the online one that is starting on the 10th of October. The suggested donation is, I think, £30. But you can, if you can't afford that, you can donate less. And they have all these different, they have talks and stuff about languages and language learning that are really interesting. But they also have these practice rooms for all sorts of languages. I mean, it's always an interesting assortment. And it's just people who are learning the language or who speak the language, talking with each other in the language about whatever. And it's fun, it's low stress, it's all just people who are into languages. I mean, it's a great environment, and it's a great opportunity to sort of work on that sort of output side of things. Here, let me give you the link to my Discord. I don't. The one Nightbot put up isn't necessarily the right one. That is where we can keep in touch in between streams, stuff like that. There, if you go there, join us there, and we can keep in touch in between streams. You can find out when I'm next going to be online, when I'm next going to be live. I am also on Twitch, so that it will be useful there. Just so you know, normally I am on Fridays and Saturdays from 4:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time to about 7-ish. Tomorrow I'm going to be hanging out with my amazing nieces. We're going to be having a cool sort of cool like outing. I'm looking very much forward to it. So I'm not going to be there tomorrow. The next time will be Friday here on YouTube again. Oh, you haven't really missed anything yet. I am going to be wrapping up pretty soon since it is 10 to 7. Let me just drop the link to this video again. This is definitely one worth checking out, because he's talking about one of the most complicated things about the language acquisition process, and his insights sound very interesting, and like the idea of just talking to yourself is a great one.
get to that.
And sorry to interrupt, but do you mean a tutor or?
Yeah,
So it's
not
okay.
well, no. So
Is somebody
under
to talk to.
tandem, a language exchange, I would be talking to someone in English. They would be speaking to me in Spanish. That kind of language exchange I can do today. Now, the reason I don't do that is because there is so much content in Spanish. And so I haven't found it's necessary to jockey my schedule and coordinate times. And if I was learning Swahili or Mandarin, I'm sure I would be doing a great deal of language exchange. But no, I said Italki, the plan would be to have a budget, and pay a native speaker to speak with me, everything in Spanish, and not necessarily ask for a lot of didactic corrections.
Yeah, which is another thing that's pointless
with somebody.
Like that sort of explicit error correction doesn't really do much except sort of get people out of the flow of things and annoy people. It does not, people, you hear about, there's this term fossilization. Like, if you make a mistake and nobody corrects you, you're just going to be stuck with it. And that is not true. That isn't how that works. That is, so you just kind of skip that explicit correction for the most part, and you'll...
But I don't think I'm quite ready. Okay. And I don't know, I'm learning this as I go, but I think there's probably a limit to talking to yourself.
Right.
There, probably.
Yeah, I
don't get a lot of feedback
I'm
with
doing that
that.
myself now with German. I'll talk about my example in a moment, but yeah, I look at them as a stepping stone, because what you're describing is exactly what I wanted to talk about, meaning the transition between yes input, relax, in your couch at home, to real life communication, and that's a huge gap, right? When it comes to, the ability to communicate, the stress you're gonna be under.
Yeah.
And so that's why activities like the ones you just mentioned, like talking to yourself.
Yeah.
There might be a limit to it.
There's a limit to it, but the key, you're easing into it. You're getting used to making the sounds and generating meaning with them, which is a really good thing. And this is where we're going to be wrapping up for today. Thank you to everyone who joined in. Please drop a like and a subscription if you're enjoying this. And join the Discord where we can keep in touch in between. I will be back, as I said. Well, actually, wait a second. Let me just make sure, because I'm not going to be streaming during... yeah. Okay, so I will not actually be streaming next week because it's the Polyglot Conference. I dropped the link there. I highly recommend it. I would love to see you there. I'm going to be there anyway, so it will be the Friday after this. The Friday after next, I will be back. With all sorts of stories from the Polyglot Conference, and totally just, if you're thinking about maybe you might be interested in doing it, do it. It's a great experience. It's one of two language related events I never miss. Definitely worth checking out. This part of it is all online, so you can just do it from wherever. And it's very nice people, just lots of language obsessed people. Well, the online one is just on the 10th. Starting on the 10th, it's for the next 3 days after that, something like that. And the £30 is just the suggested donation. You can, if you can't afford that, they're cool with you donating less, or even free in some cases, I think. So don't let that stop you. And it's definitely worth doing. So if you need that link again,
That's, well, if you need that link again, that's the wrong one. It's polyglotconference.com, just all one word. And I'd love to see you there. I will definitely be there, and then in 2 weeks I will be back here. Have a good rest of your day. It is time for me to do dinner things.